Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me. It's been a minute since I did a sewing tutorial, so I have a really easy beginner-friendly project today. Someone I know reached out to me and asked if I would embroider some burp claws for her. And while I generally don't sell or do things like that, I thought, well, I've been thinking about doing a burp cloth tutorial anyway, so we'll turn this into a sewing tutorial. I did go ahead and embroider them, but that part's not in the video. So here are the burp claws that I came up with. I think this turned out really, really cute. So I made a set of three complementary, I guess, fabrics that worked well together, and I did embroider each one. So I will walk you through how to create the burp cloth itself in the video. And here are just a couple of my other test ones I thought turned out really cute. These are double-sided. They look like this. It took me a couple of tries. This was another test one. And again, it's got the nice fleece inside. This one's made out of cotton. This is made out of cotton. This was my very first one, and I decided that one was a little bit too small, and I did a flannel on that one and a cotton fabric on the front. So my final pattern is available in the description below the video. It's a free download. You can grab this if you want to make your own burp claws. And again, this is the final size that I came up with and shape that I came up with. And I really like how this turned out. So I used flannel and fleece on this side. You can use a variety of fabrics. We will go into the different options in the video. Let's get started. This is what you're going to need. You're going to need your pattern. I have a PDF. It's a free download. You can find that in the description below the video. I have cut mine out in acrylic just to make it quicker and easier for the video, but all you're going to do is cut around the outside, and as you can see, this is exactly the same thing. So once you have your pattern cut out, you're going to also need 2 pieces of fabric cut to approximately 10 inches wide by 22 inches long. Be mindful if you have a directional fabric that the burp cloth is going to go this direction. So I've got this is folded in half. So you want to make sure that if you have a directional fabric that it is going horizontally this way. And again, this will be the front half, that will be the back half. So keep that in mind. If you choose to do some embroidery or iron on, whatever you want, I chose to do that ahead of time before I cut the pattern out. That just makes it easier to center for me. If you want to do it after you cut it out, you can absolutely do that. I just found that it was much easier to get my designs exactly where I wanted them if I put that on there prior to cutting. So you're going to fold your fabric in half, and I have more fabric here than I needed, and I did that so that I can center this where I want it. So if I want it to be more like that, I can simply adjust my fold, just making sure that I have enough fabric to cover the entire design. So you're going to fold it in half. Also, make sure when you do your embroidery that you're directionally correct with your embroidery file. So I kind of want it down right there. So here is my fold. The PDF indicates cut on the fold. So you're going to put the fold here, and then you're just going to cut around the outside. So I just want to make sure that I've got fabric doubled, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I'm using this rotating mat, and again, the acrylic template because it's so quick and so easy, and I was going to make several of these. I think I need to change my blade on my rotary cutter. There we go. Now I use flannel for my outer fabric on all 3 of these. You can use whatever you want. If you want to use a quilting cotton, that's fine, or a blend cotton. Whatever you want to use on the outside is fine. For the backing, again, you could use flannel. I'm using fleece. You could use terry cloth. A little trick for terry cloth is go to Walmart or somewhere and just pick up a thin terry cloth towel and use that. It's a little bit cheaper, and you can get quite a few burp cloths out of one towel. So that's what I bought these for. I thought that would make a nice backing for some burp cloths. Or you can buy terry cloth by the yard in Joann's. It is a little bit more expensive. I went yesterday and I think it was like $10.99 a yard. So it's much cheaper just to pick up a towel. So for my backing fabric, again, I'm using the fleece and it's cut to about 10 by 22. So let's get this out of the way. So the reason I don't cut my backing fabric is just to give you a little bit more grace. It makes it a little bit easier to handle on the sewing machine. You're not trying to keep your edges straight or missing your edges. So I just leave that piece uncut, and you're going to take your piece that you did cut and put it right side down, and then you want to pin. Now, if you want to add a tag or something on your burp cloth, that's where you want to leave the opening. So on mine, what I want like this, I left my opening about right here. If you're not going to put a tag, you can leave the opening wherever you want. I do recommend you put it somewhere on the straight edges, the straighter edges, and not on the curve. It just looks a little bit nicer when you're finished. So I'm going to leave my opening right up here. And I'm just going to put a pin in it that way just to remind me that that's my opening. And then I'm just going to pin the rest of the way around. And again, this, because I'm using the fleece, it's kind of, I don't know, I want to say slippery, but it does kind of shift and get caught on the machine. It does help to use a walking foot if you have one. You don't have to. I'm not going to use one. But just go ahead and pin all the way around. Okay, I have pinned all the way around. This is my start and stop point. So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to put it under the needle, and I'm going to back stitch right after this needle, and I'm going to sew all the way around till I come to this side of the needle, stop, back stitch, and leave that opening about the width of the needle. So about 3 or 4 inches. You can leave it as big or as little as you want, but that's going to be our opening to turn it. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance or the edge of my presser foot. Use whatever you're comfortable with. It doesn't matter if you're more comfortable with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can use a 1/2 inch, 3/8, whatever works for you. I'm going to use the width of my presser foot as my seam allowance. So again, you're going to start and stop here, or start here, back stitch, go all the way around, stop here, leaving a 2 to 3 inch opening. That's where your tag is going to be. I do recommend you not leave the tag here or here, as that's the part that's on mom's shoulder and you don't want that tag being kind of itchy. So let's go stitch this around. So here's my needle, that's my opening. I'm starting just below that. I'm using the edge of the presser foot, lining it up with the edge of this fabric, and I am going to use a 2.5 stitch length. My best advice is to go slow around the corners. There's no race, there's no prize for winning first one done. So just go slow around your corners and try to keep them consistent so that you can keep the shape of the burp cloth. So go ahead and we're going to stitch, back stitch, and stitch all the way around. Now we're back to our needles. We're going to back stitch, leaving that opening. So we've sewn all the way around, and you can see I've got that opening here. So now what we need to do is just trim this up. I'm going to use some pinking shears, and if you have a wide seam allowance, you want to make sure and cut that down. You can also just use your rotary cutter and cut it down. Make sure that you leave a little bit of extra fabric right in the area where it's open. That's going to help you turn this right side out and be able to tuck those corners in. So I don't want to trim that area too close. So go ahead and trim this up. Once you've got it all trimmed up, and you can see I just trimmed right around, trimming off that seam allowance. You want to make sure that you didn't cut into your seam anywhere. Make sure everything is still connected. If you did, just take it back over to the sewing machine and give it another stitch. So now we're going to reach inside the hole that we had left, and we're going to turn this right side out. Once you've got that right side out, you want to take a chopstick. I'm using a bone folder. You can use whatever tool you want, a pen with a cap on it, and you want to roll it along those seams all the way around so that you can make sure that everything is pressed out. The seam isn't rolled inside itself, and it's going to give it that nice shape. So go ahead and push your seams out. Once you have all those seams pressed out, you might want to go around the edges and just kind of roll them between your fingers to make sure that they are indeed pushed all the way out. And then I like to give it a press with the iron. It's just going to make it a little bit easier to top stitch. So I've taken mine over to the iron and I've pressed it. I've got my shape. You want to take your opening and push those raw edges in and try to keep that seam line in line with the shape of the burp cloth as best as you can. And then I take my tag, and I like to put this one this way because this will be hanging over the back, and you're just going to stick that right inside. And then we're going to take a pin and pin that into place. And that's just going to remind us that that opening is right there. We want to make sure that this stays nice and neat. So now you're going to take it over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to increase my stitch length to about a 4, and we're just going to stitch as close to the edge as you're comfortable with. Again, you can use the width of your presser foot if you like. If you like a wider seam, go ahead and do that. If you like it closer to like 1/8 of an inch, go ahead and do that. It's totally up to you. I like to do a little less than 1/4 inch on my finishing top stitch, as you can see on these. So again, just go slow, increase that stitch length, and stitch all the way around. And that's it. Once you've secured that top stitching, you are all done. Just fold it in half, and this, I think, makes a really cute gift set for mom to be. You might want to give it a nice press, and then maybe stack them up, do something really cute, and present it as a gift. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Again, you can pick up the free downloadable PDF pattern in the description below the video. You can add embroidery, you could add iron-on, anything you want to do to make it yours, make it more personalized, use fabric that coordinates with the nursery to be, all kinds of ideas. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to click that bell so that you're notified every time there's a new video. See ya. Never stop making.